Now finally, on the last day of their mission, Gojo and crew successfully reach the foothills of Tokyo Jujutsu High 4 hours after Riko's bounty was lifted. With them having passed through a number of Torii gates, it puts them inside Tengen's barrier and in their eyes, finally safety. Feeling that she's more than safe now, Gojo deactivates his 6-eye technique and the constant guard he had over the group. However, as soon as he does, he's also stabbed from behind by no one other than the Demon Lord himself, Toji Fushiguro. Kinda confused with what even happened, Gojo just asks if he knows this guy from somewhere, but Toji tells him to not worry about remembering some random guy's name. Funnily enough, Gojo actually slightly recognized Toji's stature. Earlier in life and while he was still with his Zenin family, Toji, along with the others, once went to see a young Gojo. Even back then, during his childhood, he was a big deal, and it was the first and last time someone ever noticed Toji's presence when he approached from behind. With the current happenings, Toji had purposefully waited until Gojo was worn down with having overused his 6 eyes. Then, when given the opportunity to stab him from behind in a complete surprise, he took it. Kicking things off between two of the series' strongest characters, Gojo forces himself up into the air, while Geto in combination summons his giant man-eating curse worm to devour the assassin. Seeing his boy rushing to his side, Gojo assures him that his wound isn't too severe as he reinforced it with curse energy to reduce any further damage. He then tells him to hurry on with the mission and take the girl to Tengen, while he holds off the unknown assailant. Not hesitating, the others hastily leave the area, as Toji also slashes his way out of the giant worm curse, exercising it in the process. With Toji looking around, surveying the area, Gojo taunts Daddy, stating that the bounty has been lifted, but Toji reveals that he was actually the maniac who placed the bounty on Riko in the first place. He finds it funny on how they had to go to Okinawa, and adds that Toji's plan consisted of creating an opening of hope with the illusion of goals using the time limit that he had set up. Annoyingly for Toji though, no sorcerers from Gojo's side were taken out in the previous bouts, but he still managed to get him to deactivate his curse technique, which was the overall goal. Utterly peeved, Gojo initiates the battle, unleashing his curse technique Lapse Blue on Toji in an attempt to send him flying. However, Toji is fast enough to evade the sorcerer's technique. With his enemy having vanished, Gojo realizes that Toji has absolutely zero curse energy, meaning that he's using nothing but an innate physical prowess to fight. Because of that, he can't read his movements, but he is able to knock him away if he does get the chance. Thinking some more, he presumes that his opponent also knows about the Limitless technique and likely has a plan for its abilities. With Toji hiding away, Gojo can't sense his location, so to fix this issue, the big brain himself decides to clear the area of all possible blind spots using the maximum lapse technique energy output blue. With his surroundings completely gone now, he surmises he's probably using the forest as cover now, but is taken by surprise when Toji uses a group of random flying heads to appear in front of him, blocking the sorcerer's vision. Having seen the storage curse he wields, Gojo guesses that it had been holding the fly heads along with any weapon Fushiguro might have. Because of that, he presumes that Toji's plan might be connected to the curse tool he just took out. With his view still partially blocked by this fly screen of Toji's, Gojo plans on using blue again to clear them until he realizes that the sorcerer killer might have actually left the area altogether and gone straight after Riko. Suddenly though, Toji appears right behind him, to which Gojo notices in time, and while studying the weapon he wields, notices the foreign curse energy flowing from the curse tool. Due to Gojo taking things precautiously and overthinking the different possibilities within the fight, it ultimately sealed his fate. Dashing in, Toji easily maims the strongest sorcerer alive, plunging the legendary blade he wields through him. With Mr. Satoru Gojo stunned with what's just happened, it's shown that this item's effect, the special grade curse tool Inverted Spear of Heaven, can force the stoppage of a curse technique. In a flash of darkness, Toji, having nullified his curse technique, cuts him down with a flurry of slashes to the leg, chest and head, leaving the young Gojo in a heap on the ground, fully appearing to have passed on. As Toji exits the premises alone, he runs into a now restored Satoru Gojo and is very surprised to see someone he thought he killed not too long ago. So the main reason Gojo had survived back there was, like he reveals himself, because he had used a reverse curse technique to heal himself. The big brain genius had used the 6 eyes to process the effects of his Limitless technique as well as the reverse curse technique. However, as an obvious effect, because it's like the first time he figured out how to do it properly, it's taxed his brain, making him extremely delirious with a crazed demeanor. Yet, even still, he brags that there, at the very edge of death, Satoru finally experienced and understood the core of curse energy itself. Taking all of this absolute nonsense in though, Toji is utterly insulted by the idea that he's lost to someone he just beat, and because of that begins taking out the Inverted Spear of Heaven, claiming that the battle has only just begun. To which Gojo with a crazed smile screams that he's oh so right. Expecting things to have not changed, Toji attempts to blitz Gojo like he did last time, slashing at him several times. However, Gojo is able to beautifully avoid them and manages to get behind Toji, levitating up into the air. Toji turns to face him, but Gojo, having cracked the code itself, learned to flow reverse curse energy into his limitless technique to successfully unleash the curse technique Reversal Red. As the ability bursts out, the explosion's repulsion power sends Toji flying a few hundred meters, but leaves him mostly unharmed. As Gojo floats there, proudly with an insane smirk on his face, Toji acknowledges that his opponent is indeed a monster. Needing to find a way through this new Gojo, Toji stretches out his arm and breaks down each of the abilities behind the limitless technique. Due to him being a Zenin, he knows about the logistics of red and blue, so he connects the inverted spear of heaven to a chain to nullify things within a certain range and comes up with a plan for each of the distinct powers. Even so, with all of this pre-planning going on, an uneasiness lingers over him. Still, he puts that aside and pushes forward, telling himself that he's gonna be fine. Gojo, on the other hand, looking mentally insane, levitates above him, upside down, wearing the same insane smile despite having lost their previous fights. Looking at him, Toji begins to hesitate, but quickly calms himself down and makes a move to kill the young sorcerer. Seeing this, Gojo apologizes to Riko because he's not vengeful enough for her, but in his eyes, he knows that throughout heaven and earth, he alone is the honored one. Using the inverted spear of heaven, Toji creates a wave of rubble that stops Gojo from seeing the assassin's exact location, only for the spear to suddenly burst through the smoke in front of him. With it then flinging towards the sorcerer, Gojo knows that innate techniques which are passed down through families have a spoken manual on how to use them. Yet, that word often slips out and other families learn the ins and outs of how these innate abilities work. He knows Toji must be a Zenin, but even inside of the precious Gojo family, there is one technique only known to a few. The motions of blue and the reversal of red. Colliding those two techniques creates an imaginary mass that absolutely annihilates everything it touches. Having performed this exact set of movements, Satoru points his two fingers forth and unleashes the hollow purple technique, taking the most gifted non-sorcerer alive by surprise. So, remember how Toji felt an uneasiness just before? Well, that all stemmed from him breaking his own rule of not actually working for free. Yeah, he got paid just before for the Star Plasma Vessel, but after completing the job, he should have just run from Gojo. But he couldn't, as the greatest sorcerer alive stood before him. Toji wanted to discredit it and crush it. If he could have taken out the pinnacle of Jujutsu, he would have finally got that self-affirmation he's always wanted. Sadly though, it caused Toji to deviate from his true self, and once he crossed that point, he had already lost. Unfortunately for him and the son he forgot all about for this path, Toji was unable to put aside his petty pride. With Toji visibly broken, Gojo asks him for any last words, to which he says that he has none. However, after a short moment, he thinks of the young Megami and tells Gojo how his son will be sold to the Zenin family in 2 or 3 years, so to do with that information as he pleases. At least we got to see Dad finally come in clutch, right as he drew his last breath and tell Gojo about the conditions that he had with Megami and the Zenins. Gedo, who's obviously woken up from his beatdown, quickly makes his way to the House of the Star, but is perplexed when he finds Toji's inventory curse on the ground. Once assimilating the curse, he goes inside to sadly find Gojo holding Riko.